Okay, I'm going to call this meeting of the East Veterans Elementary School Building Committee to order, and we will start with the disclaimer. This meeting is recorded by video and audio in accordance with the state open meeting law, consistent with the governor's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. This meeting will be conducted by remote participation. The public may not attend physically, but every effort will be made to allow the public to view and listen to the meeting in real time and participate when necessary. That being said, Chris, could we have a roll call for attendance?
Yes, Jonathan Pope.
Here.
Thank you. Ben Lummis, I didn't see him yet. Kathy Clancy.
Here.
Thank you. Richard Sapphire.
Present.
Thank you. Matthew Fusco. I don't think I saw him. Amy Pasquarello.
Here.
Thank you. Grant Harris.
Here.
Thank you. Didn't see John Dunn. Gary Frisch.
Here.
Thank you. Katie Eunice.
Here.
Thank you. Tony Gross.
Here.
Thank you. And Stacy Capone. Stacy.
She's here.
No.
Her hand
Oh.
hand went up.
But Ben is here, which gives us 9 without Stacy. So that we have a quorum, and we are going to start the meeting. And the first order of business is to vote to approve the East Gloucester Veterans Memorial. Oh, I got the old. Still got the old thing. The East Veterans School, Elementary School Building Project meeting minutes of April 13th, 2023. Chris, you know we've changed the name of the school.
So to use East Veterans.
It's on the meeting minutes. East Veterans Elementary.
I know, but that's it. We've changed the name of the school. It's now East.
The
Veterans.
acronym in the front of the actual saved file.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about.
Yeah. I put a G in the file. That's the actual file. When you open it, still says East Veterans Elementary School.
Great.
That's
Okay.
my fault
All
for
right.
putting.
Well, I was just looking at the meeting minutes.
Yep.
The agenda.
The agenda. Okay. So agenda. Got it. Okay.
I was looking at the agenda and also under the approval of minutes. But that being said, let's get back to the, are there any corrections or omissions to the meeting minutes of April 13th? Okay, seeing none, I will make a motion that we approve the East Veterans Elementary School Building Project meeting minutes of April 13th. Second. Okay, Chris, could we have a roll call vote?
Yep. Jonathan Pope.
Yes.
Thank you. Ben Lummis.
Yes.
Thank you. Kathy Clancy. Kathy.
Yes.
Thank you. Richard Sapphire.
Yes.
Thank you. Don't see Matt. Amy Pasquarello.
Yes.
Thank you. Grant Harris.
Yes.
Thank you. Gary Frisch.
Yes.
Thank you. Katie Eunice.
Yes.
Thank you. Tony Gross.
Yes.
Thank you. And Stacy Capone.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, it passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Next order of business is the approval of invoices, and we have a whole slew of them here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. I assume this is all the technology and furniture, right?
Not furniture yet. Mostly
Not
it's all
furniture.
technology.
Okay, I'm looking for some summation sheet. I'm not-
Here, I can share my screen.
Okay, thank you.
It's working now.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, so we do have quite a few invoices to review. I also want to say hello to everyone. It was nice to see everybody out that could make it to the last building tour. So it's always nice to get together in person. First invoice, WT Rich requisition number 21 in the amount of $2,021,477. This is for the April construction work. It also included about $64,000 worth of stored materials, a lot of the finishes and electrical components, and also some CM contingency draws. Those were for a variety of things. There were quite a few different things that had to be kind of squared away between some of the contractors, and also for the cost of the generator that we had to use when the power was shut down by National Grid. The next invoice is for Doran Whittier. That's invoice 48, also again for the month of April. It includes their standard contract administration services for that month, as well as $6,000 for the technology procurement during that time. CBRE Heary's invoice PJIN 0036049 in the amount of $60,000. That's to cover the project management work that we're doing on the site and overall for the month of April. We have an invoice from UTS, invoice number 105440 in the amount of $1,456. And this is for the concrete testing that they did at the back of the building when we did those pours, also in the month of April. Then the remaining ones are all for technology. We have 2 invoices from Pro AV. Those are primarily for the Epson projectors that are going to be in the school. And the total amount of those 2 invoices is invoice number 40481 and 40943 comes to $142,761. Then we have 6 invoices from CDW, and these are for printers. So a lot of times, instead of just sending us one invoice, once we receive everything, they invoice in pieces. So they have multiple invoices from the same purchase order. So those 6 invoices total $19,215. And then the final invoices are from Amazon. This is again, technology equipment, included some docking and charging devices. And the total amount of these invoices is for $10,515.28. So altogether, those 7 different companies that we're paying, the total invoices that we incurred for the month of April are $2,350,864.28. And I would ask that we approve those invoices so we can get those contractors paid.
Second.
Well, he can't make the motion. Are there any questions before we make a motion?
So,
Okay.
so in terms of technology, so we have, Pro AV and Amazon. What else do we foresee coming?
A lot.
What's that?
A lot. I mean,
Okay.
I can't list them all, but yeah, there's a
No, but
lot.
we're sort of in the sort of partway through the technology, and this is, I guess it's a combination, right, of infrastructure technology and sort of classroom use technology, right? Because we have
It's really, I mean, it's all for the technology procurement. So it's not anything that the electrical contractor is providing. And the electrical contractor is providing certain infrastructure technology on the project. So, it's not so cut and dry that it's all in one group or the other. One of the reasons why we had the electrical contractor provide some of this technology equipment was because of these incredible long lead times that we're having.
Yep.
So we could award that contract for the electrical contractor much earlier and get those orders in to the manufacturer. So that's kind of why that happened that way.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
I'd like to move to approve the invoices summarized in April report here.
Okay. the motion needs to be to
Oh.
approve the 18 invoices by 7 vendors for the total amount of $2,350,864.28.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, is there any discussion? Okay. Chris, could we have a roll call vote?
Yes, Jonathan Pope,
Yes.
thank you. Ben Lemmons,
Yes,
thank you. Kathy Clancy,
Yes.
thank you. Richard Sapphire,
Yes.
thank you. Amy Pasquarello,
Yes.
thank you. Grant Harris,
Yes.
thank you. Gary Frisch. Yes, yeah, thank you.
yes,
Yeah, I caught the end of it. Yeah, thanks. Katie Eunice,
Yes.
thank you. Tony Gross,
Yes.
thank you. And Stacy Capone,
Yes.
thank you.
Chris, John Dunn is here now.
John, oh, and John Dunn,
Yes, I reviewed it earlier and I will vote yes.
thank you.
Okay, it passes unanimously. Thank you very much. And we will move on to our updates.
Okay,
Okay,
thanks, Jonathan.
thanks. I'll turn it over to Brian.
All right, so updates, yes. Here's a shot of the exterior of the building. We have been moving forward on a lot of the site things. Last month, there were a lot of big boulders sitting over there by the kindergarten area, which is over here in the lower left-hand corner. So those have mostly been placed over by the front of the school. You can also see there's some new curbing here in place and the planters inside. Also, this finished work with the metal panels, that's been advancing and it's nearly complete. Last month, we still had quite a bit of work here to do on the outside. So on the interior, let's see if I can click through here. There we go. So here's some shots in building B. Building A is, well, a lot of we're out there on site. Building A is very well advanced and we're doing pre-punch list work in that building. So it's pretty much complete. But building B, let's see if it's kind of delayed here. You can see a lot of the finishes that are coming in. So it's following building A. And it's a little slow for these to show up. But here you can see the entry area with the stair being finished out. And then we have some images here of the art room and the media center. So lighting is installed, ceilings, doors, windows, walls, paneling. So again, you can even see some of the casework in the lower part of the picture. So all that looks good. So we continue to project an on-time opening despite all these delays and schedule revisions that we've had. And we also continue to track within the budget, despite these additional expenditures that we've had from add-ins and also just different expenditures that have come up throughout the course of the project to manage the work and get things completed. You'll recall last month, we had, quite a scare with the switchgear. And unfortunately, that's not the only type of thing that's been going on and causing us headaches and gray hairs, I hear, on the job. But the good news is that we continue to work through those. The team is very resilient. We continually, pivot and look for alternatives and new solutions. And I'm happy to report that that's what's been happening with the switchgear. So if you remember last month, we got notice from the manufacturing company that the switchgear would not ship as planned. They gave us notice, I think, a day or two ahead of the ship date. And they were projecting that we would get it towards the end of the summer, early part of the fall. So since then, we've had all hands on deck and we've looked at coming up with creative ways to work around it. And I'm happy to say that we have temporary switchgear that's been installed in the building. It's been wired in. We've had the meters connected. There's been a little bit of a delay with getting National Grid back out there, but it's not affecting the work, and we'll have permanent power in the building next week. We've had another crisis kind of come up with some of the IT infrastructure, also related to switches, but these are the network switches. We're seeing that now on projects everywhere, that switchgear that could normally be had in months is now taking 1 to 1.5 years to get to the site. So it's really unprecedented. And it makes it very difficult to manage a project when not only are you not getting things, but you're not really getting accurate information about when things are going to ship. So once again, I want to applaud the team for their efforts and finding resolutions. And in this particular case, we were able to find a resolution before the school building committee meeting. So, we can let you know that things are well underway, and we expect to have the necessary switches in place by the first week of June. So this is, in some ways, is going to be similar to the switch gear in that this is going to be temporary gear. It'll be temporary gear that will function as designed and as required, but we will then swap it out with the permanent switches that we own per contract once those actually do make it in. So quite a few big updates. I guess before I move on, does anyone have any questions about any of those items? Okay, I don't see anybody. So let's move on to the project activities. These are pretty much the same as last month. I do add some changes here if there's something significant that shifts, but we're continuing to look to getting this work completed, getting all the materials in place, finishing on time, and handling a variety of these things that you see every month here on this list. So there's not really too much to say about that. And the project funds, the owner billings are picking up now, as we just saw with all these invoices. As we're starting to get the invoices in for the technology, we're also going to be getting invoices for the equipment and furnishings. Those should be rolling in between now and, let's say, the first part of August. The furniture invoices are probably going to hit in July, and those are big dollar amounts, but the technology and the equipment are going to continue to trickle in the meantime. So that will continue to spike over the next few months. So you can see here we're at 20% that's been billed for the current contracts, and these current contracts are going to shift too as we issue more purchase orders. Because even though we've approved all the work to commence, there are still some purchase orders that are being processed. So that's going to change this as well. But we continue to be in very healthy financial shape. As indicated before, we are tracking under the budget, and we have remaining contingencies to draw from should we need them to address the issues that we're facing on the site. So on the contracts, there are no changes that are showing up here. The change order amount has dropped about $100,000 from last month with the amount of open change orders. So that's nice to see. That will slowly trickle off as these change orders get processed, or some of them also get denied. And the total change orders on the job. So far we have the 3 that we had last month that were issued previously, but we do have one more that we'll be reviewing here next. And this would be change order number 4 for the job. So this is for work that was previously authorized at the school building committee meeting. These are items that we added back to the project. And in this case, we're looking at the raised wood planters and the bollards that are at the rear by the playground. So if you remember the image I showed just a little bit ago at the front of the school, you could see those raised wood planters that were already installed. And for those of you who did the recent walkthrough, when we walked around the back of the school, you could see all those bollards that had already been put in place. So that was the authorization to do this work initially. This is really just the formal change orders that the contractor can build for that work. It takes a little time to get all the paperwork together and get it processed. So this is what we're looking to approve. Normally, this would have been approved by the PCO subcommittee based on the dollar amount, but just the way the timing worked on this, we have this ready for this meeting. So I'd like to get this formally approved so that we can get the contractor paid for this work. Are there any questions about this change order?
Okay. Oh. I was gonna read off of that, but.
Oh, sorry.
It's
problem.
okay, I got it here.
Okay,
All right, so the change order is, excuse me, Brian, 97,781.
yes,
And this is for the planters and the bollards.
and as I said before, this is work that has already been authorized by the school building committee. This is just the formal paperwork that gets processed.
All right, so I
and
just
based
want
on-
to, I just want to make a note that the 97,781 on page 1 of the Doran Whittier change order is not the same as the total on page 2. So,
Yeah, I think on Doran Whittier's cover sheet, there was a comma in the wrong place.
so anyway, just want to make sure everybody's aware of that.
Brian, can you put that back up so I can see it again, please?
Right, it's just. The common placement is things that we work on in, I think, 4th grade. But but we understand that, it's still the same number, so that's okay.
Actually, $3 different.
Thank you, Tony.
Okay, well,
Thank
is there
you.
any more questions? In which case I'll make a motion that we approve change order number 4 for the amount of $97,781. And I so move.
Second it?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
No, I just say this is that pretty happy that we had to take some things out, but because of really great management of the project, we were able to put a bunch of things back in, including the raised wood planters and the bollard. So both are yeah, good to see them back in.
Good, great. And the kids really enjoy the planters, I know for a fact. So that's a great thing to have. Chris, could we have a roll call vote?
Yes. Jonathan Pope,
Yes.
thank you. Ben Lummis,
Yes.
thank you. Kathy Clancy,
Yes.
thank you. Richard Sapphire,
Yes.
thank you. Amy Pascarello,
Yes.
thank you. Grant Harris,
Yes.
thank you. John Dunn,
Yes,
thank you. Gary Frisch,
Yes.
thank you. Katie Eunice,
Yes.
thank you. Tony Gross,
Yes.
thank you. And Stacy Capone,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh, Matt, you're waving to us. We now have Matt.
Oh,
Fusco.
sorry. Sorry,
Silent,
Matt.
Matt.
Matt Fusco.
You muted, Matt.
Gotta
You're still
mute.
muted, Matt.
I'll let that slide, but yes.
Thank you. All set.
Be a him.
Our gracious overlord.
It's, so it passes unanimously, +1. Chris, Brian, are there more updates?
yes, there are.
That's what I thought.
Okay, so see my screen now, I think?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, great. So here's our cash flow. Right now, we've reached just over 52 million in total project expenses, which is about 78% of our budget. You can see here that we continue to hover around, the $2.5 to $3 million mark for the past few months. That's going to continue probably for a few more. But then eventually it'll start dropping off. And obviously, once construction comes to an end in August, that'll drop off significantly. Also, when we look at the individual ones here, you can see how the owner billings are really jumping up high here. So, during most of the project, there's been very minimal owner costs. Most of them have had to do with the construction testing. But now that these invoices are coming in for the equipment and technology, those jump up quite a bit. So, looking at our schedule. So we are definitely getting close to the end of the construction phase. We only have 3 more months until school begins. Not that many more school building committee meetings really either. Our next one will be for June 8th. So you can see up here. We continue to face these schedule issues. I talk about this over and over again, not because I like to, but because it's what we're dealing with every day on the site. So you'll see that on the bottom left here, we're tracking 20 days off from the substantial completion date. So let me explain that just to make sure everyone understands that. The substantial completion date is a date we have in the contract that we expect most of the work to be complete. Not everything, but the main components are complete. So that date is projected to slip. This is a projection because the substantial completion date is not until June. So, we've had many issues that come up. We've been dealing with those, I think, quite well, despite the setbacks. But we are projecting that substantial completion date will slip. But what's been happening is instead of all the work moving sequentially, as we initially planned, we're going to have, or we have been already doing many of these activities simultaneously. And that is going to continue. And because of that, and because of, the additional time we're out there on site, we've been working 6 days a week now since the beginning of the year. We're able to make up that time and still complete the overall project by the final completion date, which is also part of the contract. So that's a little bit of explanation of how that works. So in the beginning of the meeting, when I say that, we plan to complete the project on time, that's when's the project going to be finished. This here is just a milestone on the project schedule that's tied to the contract. So that's something that we have to monitor, but it doesn't affect, in this case, it doesn't affect the overall completion time for the project. So moving on to some of the individual updates. For the OPM, there hasn't really been much that's been changing. We continue to manage the project on a number of fronts. Recently, we've been assisting the district in procuring a move manager. Many of you have met with them already. So they are now on board and moving ahead with the many logistics that are involved with getting all the teaching supplies and the furniture sorted, identifying what's going to the new school, what's not, and then of all the things that are not going to the new school, we need to go through a liquidation process. So that's going to begin first within the school district. Excess items are available for other schools to use. That'll help them on their budgets. Then whatever's remaining after that will be available to other city departments. So if you are working in the city, please make a note of that we will be sending out a notice for additional equipment and supplies that could be available. So you want to take a look at that. And then if anything's left over after that, rather than putting it all in the dumpster, we're looking at ways that this can be recycled, either through some type of charity organization or through just materials recycling, rather than just sticking it in the landfill where it's not going to do anything else. So we're really trying to be very prudent with this. to make sure that the taxpayer dollars are well managed and that we can save the taxpayers on other costs within the city. And also that we're very cognizant of our environment that we all share to make sure that we're being responsible with these things. On the community side, there really isn't much to report, which is always a good thing. We continue to have the safety lighting on at night. Now the building is fully enclosed, so there's really very minimal impact in the neighborhood. Not really too much disruption with any noise. We do have material deliveries that are coming in still continually. Millwork items that have been arriving and doors, and also a lot of the site materials. We're going to have all the playground equipment that needs to come in, and just other items on the site. So that's still going to continue for the next few months. Moving on to the designer. The designer also, a lot of the activities are the same as last month. They're focusing on getting the final equipment and technology purchase orders out, as well as really honing in on completing all the inspections and the pre-punch list activities on the building. So that, it's important throughout the whole project, but especially as you get to the end of the project, being able to look at the project critically and making sure that the city is getting a quality product in the end is very important. And that's one of the main roles that the architect plays during this time. Of course, the OPM is also involved, being out there on site daily looking for these things. But it's I guess it's a team effort, but there's a lot more involvement with the architect during these latter stages of the project. So they also continue their, call them regular activities, reviewing potential change orders, handling requests for information. Submittals aren't really too much right now. You can see there's 4 open submittals right here. And, there were periods of time when those were in the low to medium upper digits, for the amount of submittals that were coming in. So I know that Bryce, who's the team member who handles a lot of those things, is pleased. I think that stage is over and he gets a little bit of a reprieve. So, yeah, not much else on the designer to report. With the construction manager, W.T. Rich, they are very busy, as you can imagine, trying to get all of these activities, all of the materials completed on a timely basis, especially with the pressures that we're seeing with these material delays. So there's lots of activity going on. And as I mentioned just a bit ago, rather than these things happening sequentially, which is a lot easier to manage, they're happening simultaneously. So that makes it more challenging for the construction manager on site and for their team, but they've been doing a good job. They have lots and lots of lists to refer to keep them on track. But they're moving ahead with that. As I said in the beginning, the final finishes are underway. For those of you who were out recently, you saw that the gym floor was going in. So that's kind of a big milestone on the job. The gym floor is now fully in. We've had some of the initial finishes down, and the striping should be completed this month. Year to date, we've had 133,000 worker hours. So that gives you a sense of really how much effort goes into a big project like that. And that really just tracks the subcontractor hours on the site. In addition to that, you have all the design and management activities, as well as all of you on this committee and other members of the city. This project has been going on for about 5 years. So that's really an incredible amount of effort to be able to build a beautiful new school for the children of the community, and something that will last for generations to come. You may have seen in the monthly report, I've updated some of the milestones here. So I took, just to keep it on this page, I took off some of the earlier milestones and put in the milestones for some of these later items. Now, if you're looking at this, you might say, well, looks like we were supposed to be done with something much earlier and we're not done with that. And that's true, but that's what I've kind of explained already tonight is that rather than being able to do this work sequentially, we've had to do many things simultaneously. So when certain material doesn't show up, that part of the work can't be completed. And in order to keep the project going on and have it finished on time, we've started on different work. So you have certain milestones that hang out there, like, you know, the finishes for building A, originally projected for an October completion. Well, it's pretty much complete now, but again, there's still a few odds and ends that haven't been put in place to, you know, prevent us from putting an actualized date on that. But that's not to mean that these things are way behind. They're not. And again, for all of you that were out there recently, you saw firsthand what the building's looking like and how well it's coming together. So those are some of the milestones on the schedule. Let me see here what else I have. Here again, you can just see we're almost to that June 2nd substantial completion date. And I think that's pretty much all I have here. And then I was going to turn it over to Alex for the exciting part, as some of you say, to do the visual walkthrough for us. And for those that weren't able to attend, you can get a good glimpse of what's happening on the site. So I'll stop sharing here and hand it over to Alex.
Thanks, Brian. Give me 1 second here. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right, so again, for those of you who got to see the inside of the building, obviously that's progressing really well inside. You know, a pretty unique aerial view of the site you can see here. The bus loop, the planter beds, as Brian talked about, which was part of that change order. We've got the perimeter of the playground area out front set. We actually have playground arriving, playground equipment, I should say, arriving next week, which is pretty exciting. Working our way out back again with the playground starting, we can really button up that last couple pieces of that site play area, including the turf field, the swing set and basketball court. As far as the RTUs go and anything related to commissioning, that's well underway. We've got a lot of the RTUs started up. Again, you can see that stuff on the roof. But that process has commenced. That's probably one of the biggest pieces that's tied to the permanent power issues we've been having. We need the permanent power to start up those units and get those commissioned in an efficient and you know, the correct manner. So that process has started, probably been going on for a couple months now. A couple weeks now.
Yeah, just to add something to what you said, Alex, even though we do need the permanent power to get all these RTUs started up, WT Rich has worked out ways to continue the startup activities with the temporary power that we have now.
Yeah,
So,
we're pretty much
yeah.
drawing everything we could possibly draw off of 400 amps temporary service at the moment. So that's been fun, as you can imagine. You can see the bollards being installed. Those actually have been installed around the back playground area. And we're getting set to pour the backers to the curb. Got the last stretch of curb in on the back. As you can see, those planter beds will start to form, as well as the sidewalks and the back access routes to the playground area. The last pieces of metal wall panel are going up at curtain wall 2, which is right here. And then they'll jump out front to finish that last piece off the stairwell at the front near the bus loop. Got a good section of the loading area. You can see the overhead door here, which has been installed. Again, continuously working our way sort of clockwise around the site to get the concrete sidewalks in, which is a critical part to getting certificate of occupancy. You can also see the bioretention area with the sidewalks being formed there. It's kind of hard to tell, but that is a depressed area that's purposely put in place to store runoff from the site. At some point, you know, within the next month or so, we'll get into the final asphalt coating, striping as well. We've got a pretty elaborate athletic surfacing pattern that goes around the backside near the play area, if you guys can remember. You know, hopscotch and foursquare and mile runs and stuff like that. So, you know, this is the time where, you know, site finishes really come into play. You can really see how the site starts to finish off, getting into loam and seed and the trees being placed, which should occur within the next couple weeks. You can see the boulders, I think we've talked about before, reclaimed from the site, actually incorporated into the project. It's kind of a nice feature. It does provide a little bit of safety, or more safety, at the front of the school as well, acting as a deterrent to the building. You can see the school signs been placed as well. And then the last real big component to this site work is removing our trailers, getting rid of the old National Grid poles, and then reconfiguring this whole front sidewalk and parallel parking areas along Webster Street. So overall, you know, really good progress being made over the past month since we last spoke. And we're really kind of under the gun. I'm not sure where the drone driver is going now, but
Is that enough?
yeah, he's given up. Oh, we're back. So yeah, that's it. Any questions?
I was going to point out that with those reclaimed boulders, that's, you know, just one example of a way that we were able to save some money, you know, because I think sometimes people might scratch their head and say, well, all these issues that you're facing, you know, how is it that you can add things back? So there's not one answer. It's really every day, how things are managed, what we're looking at. And of course, you know, you have to start out with a reasonable contingency as well. But that was an example of something where, you know, we were doing excavating, we're finding boulders and saying, hey, okay, let's use these instead. We'll save some money on this project. So that's kind of how some of those things work.
Anything else?
Are you asking anybody, you're asking
Well,
them if there's anything else, or I have a question on something different?
okay, well, that's the conclusion of the updates, right, Brian?
Yes, it is. Thanks.
Okay, so before we adjourn, is there anything anybody else would like to bring up?
I was curious if anybody has any information on where Niche Engineering is in terms of the traffic work that's leading to the site. And maybe this is not the group to be asking.
Ben's waving his hands around.
Excellent.
Thank you, Mr. Pope. Yes, Kathy, do you have an update on that? So we're in regular contact with Niche. They have given DPW and me their signing and striping, you know, plans, and we've commented, very limited comments on those. We are, so then they'll put together the plan with the bid, you know, so DPW can put together the bid materials to do that work. They'll also continue to help us with the Mass DOT as necessary for some signage on the highway there. And then we're also just looking at, actually, Jonathan or Kathy, Jonathan, you may have gotten back to me already on this, but just looking for to have a clear list of the ordinance changes that were made in relation to, you know, related to the school project, which I think were made with City Council last August. But I just want to narrow that down so we can get that, you know, the written documentation on that from the city clerk.
I do have that ordinance. It's 500 pages. I will locate our changes in there.
Oh, that'd be great. Okay. I also have someone who could do that if you just want to direct us to the ordinance.
Okay, I
Yeah,
can send it. I have, I don't know where it is, but I have it from Suzanne Egan, and I will send it over to you.
Okay, that'd be great. That's a big help.
You're not gonna make me do that, Ben, are you?
Well, I wasn't, but maybe now I will.
Just checking.
I think you look a little too relaxed there, Matt.
Yeah, it's because he's asleep.
It's not that bad. The changes are highlighted.
Oh, okay, all right, great. Okay, great. If you can send it over, that'd be great. That's a big help. My next question was to Tony, which is, is there a way for us to find out more specifically than 500 pages? But if it's highlighted, we can get it pretty easily.
So Ben, I will just kind of say, as you know, City Hall is in a complete shambles.
Yeah.
So, if this information is available from Jonathan, and that's probably the quickest way to get it rather than from the clerk's office.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Obviously, John, it sounds like we won't actually be needing to call on Joanne if Jonathan gets me the document, it's already highlighted. Even I can find it. So
That would be great. Thank you.
appreciate your reminder on that one. And then, so Kathy, yeah, does that make sense? Any more questions on that?
Yeah, just one last question. We don't see any issue in terms of timing to hit school opening, correct?
Not that I'm aware of, and nothing that Mike Hale has told us. I will continue to ask though, because that's the right concern.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, and we don't. There are no real significant changes at this point. Brian or maybe Alex, one question. I mean, I think it's Alex actually. I remember some talk at one point of a motion capture camera being set up or talk about that setup. Was that ever done? And do we have that at all? Or
Are you talking time lapse, Ben?
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, we have one.
You do?
Yep.
When do we get to experience that?
I don't know, the next month or so. Next month, maybe.
Okay.
Does that sound all right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think kids would love to see that, and those of us who have kids in our heart would like to see that because it's fun to watch.
Trust me, I watch it almost every day. So no, it's good. I think let us get a little bit more finished out front, Ben.
Yep.
That camera's actually going to be coming offline once we move our trailers. So yeah, we can share that with you for sure.
All right, that'd be great. Yeah, that'd be excellent at some point. Because I think kids would enjoy that before they head off. And
It sounds like you're really asking for yourself, Ben. Let's be honest.
Was it that obvious? Sorry. And then there's one other question. Brian Hermotica, just request from me, Amy, and Matt for you not to mention again that's only 3 months until the school opens. Okay. We're trying to finish out this year. We don't need to be reminded about that. Next year's pretty close. Okay. So
Gotcha.
that.
Got it.
You can say the building's opening. That's fine. Okay. You just can't say until
Yeah.
the school year starts. All right. All right.
Well, part of that
Yeah.
time frame probably should start thinking about ribbon cutting ceremonies, inviting MSBA and community walkthroughs.
Jonathan or maybe Rich, in terms of ribbon cutting, my understanding, although I'm not sure about this, is ribbon cutting at West Parish happened a little bit later. I mean, it didn't happen like before the school year, didn't happen in the first week necessarily. Do you guys remember about what the timing was for the West Parish?
Yeah, and
I think it's based on the
Stephanie has all the-
MSBA.
Go
Sorry,
ahead.
Kathy, if you can say that again.
Yeah, two things. One, we coordinate with the MSBA, but second, Stephanie, I believe, has a document that was like the program of the ribbon cutting. So we'll be able to check exactly what date
Okay.
it was.
Okay, good. I'll look
It
into that.
wasn't the first day of school.
It definitely was not.
Yeah, we got the kids involved and all that.
Goodness.
Matt is very happy to hear that.
Yes.
Most of the projects I've been on, that the ribbon cutting is typically, towards the latter part of September and sometimes even into October to make sure that, everything's clean and neat and organized and functioning. So it's definitely never held early in my experience.
And I believe it took place in the gymnasium, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
Okay, super. Okay, that's great. Excellent. We'll figure that out. And then we'll look for input from folks, especially anyone who was there and has some suggested changes too. But and then community walkthroughs. I know, Matt, you've been thinking a lot about getting families in there early on. Right? Any not that you should have a lot of detail on that at this point, but just what have you had any thoughts about timing on that? Just for school families.
Yeah, I mean, I think August is really going to be a time to, I'm sure all the families will want to get a walkthrough. especially kindergarten families too, but it's everyone actually. That we'd like to start looking at that, but you know, I'm hoping August for that.
Yeah, that's what we had put on our schedule before. And I think it'll be good to do that once all the furniture is in and the school really looks complete.
Yep.
There's a lot to navigate in the building, and I've been talking with the architects about building a like a kid-friendly map of the school and everything else. They've done that for West Parish, so we're kind of looking through a couple of ideas on that as well.
Okay, great. Just so folks know, school starts for students on the 29th, so probably looking for those tours, perhaps the week of the 21st, perhaps, just as a first shot at it. Yeah.
With West Parish, we had on the weekend before the school opened, we had it open a Saturday morning, open to the community.
So to the public, so beyond.
The public, yeah, beyond the parents, to the,
Great.
whoever wanted.
Right. That's helpful to know.
And we had different people, sort of doing tours. It wasn't just, we had students, we had, members of the building committee, we had all sorts of people taking groups through.
Okay, folks.
My hope is that, sorry. My hope is to have a group of fifth graders trained, ready to go for tours for that.
Okay.
Great.
If folks can be on deck, August 26th as well, it sounds like. That's Saturday, the 26th. Jonathan Pope just signed you up.
That's right.
All right. Okay. Other topics?
Just a quick one from me. Brian, I need to talk to you like maybe next Wednesday about cash flow through the end of the fiscal year. I have to plan on borrowings. So I just kind of need to know, it's at some point I have to shut down the payment of invoices. Based on our next meeting of June 8th, I would prefer not to shut it down at the beginning of June. But so let's you and I talk maybe sometime on Wednesday.
Okay.
Thank you.
I can send you, I'll send you an invite. And we'll
All
work
right,
something out.
very good.
And just one last piece on this, just in terms of update. I mean, Matt continues to do, and with Christy Lambert, just an incredible job in getting folks, more and more connected across the two schools and communities. A variety of things. Earlier this week, or maybe it was, I guess it was earlier this week, the fourth graders from both schools met up with a field trip to see a movie with our high school mental health ambassadors. So another way of connecting them on some important topics, but also in the same place, having a good time together and learning some things. Matt also had our food service employees from both schools to come and see the new kitchen, which I think they're pretty excited about, right, Matt?
Yes, they're thrilled. Absolutely thrilled.
That's great. And then also moving forward with our move team and beginning to identify the movers. We brought on a move coordinator because this is an incredibly complicated move from 2 schools plus a couple satellite sites, and then also the dispositioning of one of the buildings we own and moving out of a leased building. So, but we have a real firm time schedule on that, and Matt has shared information with the staff from both schools on when they'll have materials and resources to begin packing up. So, it's all happening on multiple levels. And really being led so much by Matt. So, appreciate all your work, Matt, as always.
Thank you.
It's a great team all around.
Good team.
Absolutely.
Anything else? Seeing nothing, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Seconded?
Second,
There we go. Chris, could we have a roll call vote?
Yes, Jonathan Pope.
Yes.
Thank you. Ben Lemus.
Yes.
Thank you. Kathy Clancy.
yes.
Thank you. Richard Sapphire. Thank you. Matt Fusco.
Yes.
Thank you. Amy Pasquarello.
Yes.
Thank you. Grant Harris.
Yes.
Thank you. John Dunn.
Yes.
Thank you. Gary Frisch.
Yes.
Thank you. Katie Eunice.
You muted, Katie.
There we go. Thanks.
Sorry.
And Stacy Capone.
Yes.
All right.
It's
Thank you.
unanimous. Thank you very much. Have a good weekend, and we'll see you all soon.
Thank you, folks. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Weekend. Good
Thank
night.
you. Bye-bye.